Thank you, Dr. Roy, for the insightful speech. So coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, setting up the tone for this first edition of Sustainable Sarawak Webinar Series is our first speaker, Dr. Stephen Chu. Dr. Stephen Chu is a fellow Australian Institute of Digital Health. He is a clinical information technician with 25 plus years of clinical experience in internal medicine and orthopedics, and more than 20 years in clinical informatics. He is one of the co-chair of the HL7 Patient Care Work Group since 2010 and co-lead international and national HL7 standard project, and one of the clinical leader in the HL7 Fast Healthcare Interoperability Resource Clinic in on FHIR initiative. He will be talking about digital health literacy uplift, addressing the needs of underserved community. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Stephen Chu.
Thank you, Chair, for... Thank you, Chair, for the warm welcome. I am absolutely delighted and honored to be one of these guest speakers today at this very important webinar and sharing some of my thoughts with international leaders of the field. Just a quick question. Do you want me to drive the slide deck, or are you driving the slide deck?
Yes, Dr. Stephen, you can share your slides.
Okay, all right, that's good. Let me put the slide deck into presentation mode and then share it. Hang on. Am I able to share it? Am I sharing it, or hang on. Let me, okay, I have to share it first.
Yeah.
All right, you should be able to see my slide now.
Yes.
And I will put it in I'll put it in presentation mode. All right, so it's all,
yeah, we can see
good in terms of, yeah, okay, cool. All right, so again, thank you for the opportunity, and I am honored, and I am very delighted to be here to share some of my thoughts with our international colleagues. So when I was asked to make a presentation, I was scratching my head as to what exactly I would be less boring in the topic, which is can be very dry. So after a little bit of soul searching, I kind of thought that I will I will touch on a couple of topics which are probably relatively rarely visited in the area of digital health and digital health literacy. So first of all, the presentation is being divided into three areas. One is looking at the current landscape of digital health investment, and what would be needed to continuously to drive the investment, given that there are signs after the COVID that the investment are beginning to come off its peak, and how digital health literacy would be important in one of the maintenance drivers to continuously drive digital health investment. And in associated with that, will be a concept about epistemic injustice in the context of health and digital health literacy. I would also like to focus on a couple of factors by highlighting that technology alone and education alone is inadequate. There are a whole lot of intersectional variables that would impact on digital health uptake and also digital health literacy. So to that end, I created a health and digital health literacy framework, which hopefully would shed a bit more useful light into how it can help improve digital health literacy. And then looking at some of the strategies to realize or put the framework into implementation, including things like how does game theory sort of contribute to the improvement, how does AI intelligent agents can be used, and finally, how does putting a human touch to the digital health literacy landscape can create sort of more drive and efficiency in the uplift, and then round up with a roadmap at a glance, putting those variables together. So we know that COVID sees the peak of the digital health technology investment, and there are signs that the investment is beginning to soften, and that raises a question as to what are the factors that will be required to sustain the investment, if not sort of like lifted in a continuous upward trajectory. So when we work in the area of digital health, we always want to ask the question: if you are in a commercial world, what is the return on of your investment? And if you are in the government sector, you always want to ask the question: what are the benefit realization? How can you realize the benefit of the investment? So I've done a bit of discussions with a number of people over the years about benefit realization, and there are three areas. One is adoption, the other one is service delivery, improvement of service delivery, and the third one is providing systemic benefits. So I don't have time to go into all of them, but I would just highlight one, which is tightly associated with the concept of literacy, which is adoption. So in this landscape of adoption, what we'll be looking at is the healthcare democratization, which will be a condition where the consumers of the healthcare services would be able to use digital technology in gathering the information, sharing the information, and use the health-related information to improve access and use of the healthcare services, and also improve their health outcome. Now, if that's the one of the hallmark of benefits of digital health, then it follows naturally that for the citizens to be able to fully utilize the digital health, the benefits of the digital health technology, then their capability, their confidence, and their efficiency and effectiveness of using the digital technology would be very important. And you can see that from some of the reports, like the Digital Citizens Report that is published about on a survey of the Australian citizens. The report highlighted the citizens want better access to digital services, and one of the top digital services that the citizen would be accessing will be health services, and they also want to be digitally equipped. So that all points back to the directions of there needs to be have better digital health literacy in order to be able to realize those benefits. Now, but digital health, the landscape itself is actually quite challenging to navigate. There is a saying that healthcare system, in particularly healthcare system in the US, but I think it is also true to other parts of the world, that the healthcare system is incredibly bureaucratic, difficult to navigate, and alienating to the consumers. And digital health is not that very different. So they are quite difficult. I mean, technologies are not necessarily that easy to use. Technology becomes more and more complex these days. Even consumer digital technologies, one probably would need to be very skilled even in setting up your smart TV at home, let alone sort of navigating the field of digital health. So there are challenges, like, say, for example, how and where do I find the information? When I find the information, can the information be trusted? And what about security risk? So those the challenges are actually making digital health utilization even more difficult. And there is a very important saying that success in digital health will not happen by just having the best technology alone, even if you have the best technology. Everyone has an Apple Watch or a smartwatch that can monitor your heart rate, but that doesn't mean that you are digital health capable. So so therefore, all this also points back to you need the citizens to be competent, confident, and effective and efficient in the use of the technology. And that's all sort of comes back to the questions of literacy. So if we accept that literacy is an important component to sort of benefit realization, and that knowledge and literacy is about knowledge, capability, confidence, then and that it is a human right. So if we accept that premise, then it's kind of like generates a question of does this human right impose an obligation on society? So therefore, a society has the obligation to educate its citizens to become health and also digital health competent. And at the MedInfo 23 conference, one speaker talked of the concept of epistemic injustice, and he said that he made the claim and say that not educating citizens for basic literacy in 21st century is a society that commits epistemic injustice. So that's a very interesting argument. I would sort of expand on that a little bit later. But first of all, there are a couple of definitions for or the types of epistemic injustice and types and also definitions. I don't want to go into a lot of details. Suffice to say that it's all focused on a knowledge gap and because of the knowledge gap and also the distrust or discrediting, our healthcare consumers as unreliable informant of their own illness or experiences. So the concept of patient-centered care and patients in the driver's seats of their in control of their healthcare destiny becomes almost impossible. And so therefore, the problem of epistemic injustice should be addressed. There's no questions about that. But the question is about how much education is actually enough if we accept that we need to address epistemic injustice by using education as a mechanism. So I actually had a bit of a sidebar discussion with the speaker and said that, look, I totally agree with your comment about digital health or health literacy is important, and not giving, not educating citizens would be equivalent to committing epistemic injustice to the society. But how much education is actually enough for the healthcare consumer? So I cited 2 examples. On the left-hand side of the slide deck, I have given 2 examples. One example is a real-life example of an MRI examinations of a report of a patient who suffers from primary CNS lymphoma, and the information is so complex. Even me with medical training, not in the area of neurology, sort of have difficult looking at this report itself to sort of make a very sort of authoritative clinical judgment and decision about it. So I have to talk to the patient's radiologists and the patient's hematologists and neurologists and review the patient's medical information to be able to understand and interpret this piece of MRI report. So addressing epistemic injustice is not that simple. So you can't just go and give every citizen 20 years of medical training or IT training to make them literate to the degree that they can navigate the complex world by themselves. And the bottom of the left-hand screen is a screenshot of a very simple health interoperable standard design. And just even sort of looking at the body site, which is a codable concept, that means that you can put a simple code to say that, look, this is the body site that has a certain kind of pathology if you're looking at a histopathology report. But the problem is that in the domain of cancer, say, for example, if you're looking at sort of small cells carcinoma, there are sort of types of carcinoma that have combinations of small cells or mixed morphological findings that are affecting multiple body sites. How do you then sort of support that kind of representation in a digital format, and yet not causing sort of confusions to the implementers and not causing confusions to the reader? So those are a couple of those are 2 of the many examples that I have. So to illustrate that addressing epistemic injustice is not just simply about education. We have to do better than that because society doesn't have the resources to train everyone to be an IT specialist, to train everyone to be a clinical specialist. So then it begs the questions of so how do you then address sort of this kind of complex problem? So I have a lot of thought about what actually does digital health literacy mean if it's not just about education. So I went down the rabbit hole of decomposing the components of digital health literacy and look at what digital health literacy this concept is built on. So first of all, when I do the decomposition, I sort of come to the realization that for you to be able to navigate this digital health information, you have to have certain degree of health literacy. And you have to have certain degree of media literacy. Why media literacy? Because today's world, there are a lot of misinformation that are being published in the social media. If you don't have the certain level of media literacy, then you won't be able to make sort of have the ability to differentiate what I call the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so you need that level of literacy, and you need the digital technology literacy for you to be able to master the application master the technology to be able to help you to do the navigation. So that's the next tier that digital health literacy is built on. And health literacy, media literacy, and digital technology literacy is built on top of another layer, which sort of include what I call the intersectional layer, where there are multiple factors that intersect with each other to provide compounding effect on the individual. So the social determinants, the culture, the person's health belief, and also the digital inclusiveness. So all those factors interact sort of to impact on how a person can understand the health information, or is willing, even willing to understand the health information, and willing to understand and use the technology to rise to the level of digital health literate. So with that in mind, so if I were to design any digital health literacy uplift strategies and policies and roadmap, I would have to consider all those three layers of interacting or intersectional factors or variables for the uplifting strategies and program to be successful. So having looked into the framework, then the question is that if we accept the fact that we can sort of train everyone to be an expert in every area, then what can we do to make the education as broad as possible and as deep as we can afford? And so are there any innovations that we can think about? So in the covering slide, I put out a statement and say that, look, necessity is the mother of creation or invention or innovation. So if we need something that is truly innovative to make digital health literacy uplift to be as broad and as possible and as tailorable as possible in terms of depth, then we need to look at something innovative. The games theory, using games theory to develop interactive educational games would be some very useful things to consider. And using intelligent learning agents would be something that would be very useful. And then there is always a need for digital health navigators, which I will touch on a bit later on. And so therefore, a blended approach of the technology and the human touch would make it sort of relatively effective. So that sort of leads me to investigate what kind of games of sort of theories and also games simulations would be sort of most effective. When I was working in New Zealand as an associate professor for the University of Auckland, I led a project, a couple of projects which uses sort of games theories to design games for patients' rehabilitation, and they work quite well. So the lessons that I learned from there is that for the games to be accepted and used by the patient or by the learners, they have to be meaningful, relatable, experiential, captivating, fun, and interactive. So if we sort of take those principles and the requirements into consideration, and then put them into a certain sort of type of games, that will be very useful. And I actually came across a presentation at MedInfo 23 in Sydney in July. One of the presenters actually sort of quite interestingly sort of present as a set of digital interactive games sort of based on the Squid game. So for those of you who are familiar with the Korean Squid game, so you would be familiar with that. The game sort of capitalize on dividing the participants or the players into two groups. One group is the good guy, the other group is the bad guy, and then the story is being written sort of along the good guy trying to beat in the games the bad guys, and the bad guys try to block the good guys from advancing. So it's actually quite an interesting sort of idea in competitive games that principle that can be woven into the digital health education, and sort of to provide the interactive, relatable, experiential, and fun-filled type of activities, and appeal to the human nature that I want to win, I don't want to lose, that kind of mindset. Right? So this slides kind of look at
yang mewujudkan sikit proses untuk.
Sorry, is my time?
Yeah,
am I over time?
No, you are on track, Dr. Chu.
Okay, so if you look at the framework that I highlighted a few slides ago, so you can look at those frameworks, the variables in those frameworks, and you can then put those sort of frameworks into either the promotion zone or the offensive zone or the defensive zone. So you weave the stories and put the stories into different zones, and so therefore and you require the protagonist and the antagonist to be crossing into the different zones, and so therefore defend or attack sort of your opponents sort of based on those variables, and in that way, the people who are being assigned those characters has an incentive for wanting to win and play with those variables, and hopefully they will be able to sort of learn from the lessons of playing those variables, and to put those things into perspectives, this table sort of separates sort of a number of digital health enablers type of variables or factors. So from base sort of from technology to language to competence to information access to information reliability, psychological factors, cultural factors, privacy, confidentiality, security factors, and you can have the barrier side and also the facilitator side, and you can then look at how do you then weave those variables into a story and build a story, a story script that would allow the protagonist to enhance the strength of the facilitating factors, and the antagonists would try to put up barriers, sort of and would teach the protagonists how to use the facilitating variables to overcome the barriers. In that way, so you can build an education program which is quite useful. And actually, sort of, you can. I mean, I know that universities today are beginning to use the squid theory. So in the economics lectures. So I did a Google Monash University, my alumni university. Sort of actually their economics faculty actually uses squid theories as a game to create games to teach students about economics, which is actually quite interesting. So games alone probably is not going to be sufficient. So as I said, technology is actually quite, a lot of the technology is actually quite difficult to navigate and also to organize. So this is where smart agents or intelligence agents can help. So we can create some personalized intelligent agents that sort of understand the person's preferences, social characteristics, and learning and interaction styles. And those knowledge that are learned by the personalized intelligence agents can then be fed into the games agents. And they can be fed into the protagonist agents representing the person playing the game, and sort of make sure that you would sort of create a profile that can be sort of assisting the learner to try his best to overcome the antagonist. And then you have language agents who can be used to overcome language barriers. And we know that a lot of if we are going to use sort of international, customized international learning material, a lot of the learning materials are being written in English for people who comes from English as a second language or low English competency community, like sort of linguistic and cultural diverse community. A language agent can be very helpful. And then you have tutorial agents, digital secretariat agent. And so you have a set of games agents to be able to sort of use sort of to play against the learner. You can the learner and the games agents can swap antagonist and also protagonist role. And having them play the antagonist role is also educational in helping them to understand so how bad things can happen and how to avoid them, that kind of thing. So I find it quite interesting, sort of in that regard. And then we look at sort of technology can actually be quite alienating and difficult to navigate. Having a human navigator to provide a bit of hand-holding to people who are less digitally capable will be a very important and useful strategy to use. And it's useful to alleviate the fear and also provide the much needed psychological support, telling them that you're not alone in this journey, and you can be you have me to be walking the journey with you, holding your hand if necessary, and providing the technical support. And there are sufficient international research to in the other area, like the patient navigators in the healthcare system, that helps the patients sort of provide the confidence that to the patients in navigating the very foreign or bureaucratic, unfriendly healthcare system. So in closing, you can the framework can be instantiated in this roadmap. In particularly in the area of meaningful co-design, you can taking into considerations those intersectional variables or factors. You can then sort of incorporate people from the indigenous community, cultural and linguistically diverse communities into co-designing something that is meaningful and useful to the education program. I had the experience of having a conversation with a number of our indigenous community elders. We call them uncles. One of a few of those uncles were talking about how the healthcare systems that are being created by the white government are not suitable for their requirements. So I sat down with them and asked them a whole set of questions as to how, if they were to design a healthcare systems or policy or strategies for their community, what do they think would be important and useful to be incorporated? And they gave me a list. So that experiences kind of makes me wake up to the degree that if we were to design some educational program for the underserved community, then bringing them along the journey in co-designing the literacy uplifting program will be absolutely important. And then the scope has to be realistic, has to be patient-centric and innovative in order to make sure that it capture the imaginations of the people who will be using the technology, using the uplifting program, and then you then look at how do you address the barriers. So if you look at the bottom tier of the framework that I have created, the bottom tier of the intersectional variables actually highlights a lot of barriers. So those barriers needs to be addressed, and if you are able to co-design with the target population and addressing those barriers, then you will go a long way to creating very useful, meaningful, and experiential contents, and using technology to help them to realize the digital health literacy that would need to help them to navigate the system. So I think with that, I come to the end of my presentation.